Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. We are broadcasting live here via the International Public Radio on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM in New Orleans. This evening's segment is fully sponsored by the amazing people at Folgers Coffee. So thank you, Folgers. We do love you a whole lot. Tonight, we welcome back Lynn Russell to the show. She will be continuing on a little bit from where she left off in the last segment, and she will be talking about a whole lot of new stuff like positive energy and vibes and her new book. And there's just a whole mix of stuff in there. So she was really delightful the last time she was here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she's got to say this time. And yeah, I love this. We get to see her face this time too. She was only on the phone the last time, so always different when you can see people. Anyway, in order to participate in the show, we are tonight on International Public Radio and UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials YouTube pages. So you'll have to subscribe and be able to catch us there. We will be back on UFO Paranormal Radio hopefully next week. So settle on in, please, and get ready for another awesome segment. And Amelia is on mute, I think. There we are. Are we? Do we have it? No. Fighting? Are we fighting? We are fighting. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to go. I've got people asking for a link to International Public Radio. So I will do that while Amelia is fighting to get on. Okay. So I don't think this is going to work.
I got it. Yeah.
Are you on? Okay.
Yeah. It just by itself. I didn't touch the mic. It wasn't undone. It just did it by itself. I did post the link.
Yes, Wayne was looking for it.
Pages.
Because,
sorry.
Yeah, he's.
I thought somebody didn't see it, but yeah.
No, I'm okay. I'll send it.
Okay. It'll be nice to see her.
Oh my God! There we go.
We're
it's
close
done.
to the time. I'm just going to talk a little bit about her. For those of you who didn't see her hear her the last time, Lynn is an incredible woman. She is so kind and so knowledgeable. Such a delight to have on for both of us. She has over 65 years of studying various religions and spiritual philosophies and research near-death experience for Dr. Jeffrey Long of NDERF. After studying 2,500 cases, Lynn became fascinated with the profound underlying spiritual knowledge brought back from all of these people who've experienced NDEs. The second edition of her book, The Wonder of You, What the Near-Death Experience Tells You About Yourself, is about that knowledge in your reality. So we're going to be continuing that, correct? We're going to be continuing that conversation.
Yes, we are actually going to be spinning off for those who did not hear the show the first time. So we'll start off there, and then we're going to go off to all the cool new stuff that she's doing. So, yay.
I know. It's exciting.
It is exciting.
Another week. I can't believe it's almost August. Really? I haven't even dipped my toe in the pool. Seriously.
I can't even talk about it because one day just rolls into the next for me. It's like heading out tomorrow, I believe, to pick up a colossal collection of Oddfellows chairs and couches and that were built by prisoners or a prisoner from the Kingston Penitentiary in 1940.
Very interesting.
They're like nothing I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow,
things find me, and we just sort of went, wow, okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's exciting. Yeah, that's exciting. The good thing is you can detect if there's any residual energy with that or any active energy with that. My nephew learned the hard way yesterday after buying me a postcard from World War I, I believe, World War II, 1917, World War II, that it sometimes comes with things. So,
it does. That's where a lot of haunted objects come from, and
yeah.
you have to be very careful with that kind of stuff. It's just funny because it came to you, but the spirit stayed behind. So I wonder if you
I
felt
haven't
a
got the
connection
card
to your
yet.
nephew.
No, I haven't got
So
the
it's
card
still
yet.
there.
He still has it. He
I
photographed
see.
it, and I'm like, before. That's why I
Oh.
said to you, let's clear this before it gets here, because God only knows what else it comes with via, courier service. So I said, that's why I said to you, okay, Michelle, can we do this? Can we add this to tonight? Because there's stuff going on in his office, and this is too much. Hi, Wayne. And this is just way too much. And I was talking to his wife today, and she said, I keep telling him, stop buying her old antique stuff. If you want to buy her something new. And I started laughing. I said, no, you don't have to buy me anything. Just let me, we cleared it. I said, let me know when you're doing something.
Right.
Don't worry about ruining a surprise, because he surprises me all the time. That's what it is. He just gets so excited, right? And I said, oh, chill out. You're already my favorite, so it's okay. But it's so cute. It's just so cute because he gets right into it. And when he was little, a lot of people don't know, in Mount Hope, which isn't far from where I live, they have a warplane museum, and I used to take him there. Every Father's Day, when they had the Father's Day weekend, where they had the weekend where they would fly out the Lancaster and do the air show. And we would do that. And, before pandemic, he was taking his kids. So it's kind of cool. So I said to him, when everything opens up, I would love to share that experience with his children, so that we're like 3 generations in to this show. So I'm looking forward to that. But anyways, he's so into all of that stuff. He really knows what he's buying when he does. But for someone like him, and like someone like you or I, it's a different experience. So, because I probably some of the audience are probably thinking, oh my God, Michelle's buying haunted chairs. Yes, but
these are not, to my knowledge. You never know, I suppose.
We'll know tomorrow night.
Yeah. Yeah. They are really stunning, like horsehair seats, everything. Like they're like nothing I have ever seen. To think that there were 1 or 2 men in penitentiary who made these.
That's incredible.
They really are. They really are.
Imagine...
It is a colossal set. I mean, we have to get a big 26-foot truck to go down and take it on.
Wow. That's exciting. I can't wait to see the pictures. I would imagine that because they're channeling artistic energy while they're creating this, that the energy would be quite positive and lovely on the chairs, to be honest with you. That's where people, when you're buying something that's antique, take into mind where it was created, who created it, and when.
Oh, exactly. And
it's not necessarily because it's from that location.
And not my first Oddfellow pieces. I do have, an 1854 toe pincher coffin. And I do have chairs that were all handmade, very, very rare, maybe exclusively for the one lodge, also that are upstairs and just tucked away, not to be used. Like there's just some pieces, I've got a beautiful Oddfellows book, also antique. Like there's just, they're very intriguing because of all the symbols and stuff that they use. I just find it really fascinating. So, but the building was sold. So it's like, okay, everything goes. I was like, wow, what a privilege, to be
That's exciting. I can't wait. You're going to share these pictures?
I will absolutely share the pictures, and, just we'll see if they're everything that it's everything that it's being led to be. So we'll see.
Nice.
Very exciting. So we're ready for our guest. If
I'm moving,
Joe can bring her on. I know.
Yeah. No, you know what? We had some cable service. So my daughter had to, because I'm not tech anything. So she had to re-enter all the different passwords and the different connections. So she moved my laptop where I usually have it a certain way for the show.
Right.
That's why I'm like fidgety, but now I think I'm okay.
I think you're good. Yeah, everything looks the same as it usually does. Okay, so this is a good thing.
I'm like slowly turning this.
So I'm just going to check my mail to see. I don't know if she's in because Joe hasn't let her in, and I
Oh,
haven't heard from her.
he usually messages us on the board as well.
I'm just making sure that the email did go. It did send. Okay. So I guess we're just going to wait.
Hi, Mike.
Okay, Mike Walker. Hello. How are you? Hello. So yeah, so you've had near-death experiences.
A couple.
Just a couple.
I feel like that's my life's purpose, is to endure them and do something with it. Every time I'm not listening, I feel like one hits me on the back.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting topic. I know we're not going to stay on that topic because we've already done it with her, but I'm hoping that she'll be able to touch on how you bounce back from something like that and become a functional member of society.
Especially
it's hard for some people.
Especially when I went through it, I didn't even know it had happened. Like, I was drugged up for so long. But I wonder about people who do not know what a near-death experience is, and how do they. It would be great to hear her advice on how to come back from. I absolutely agree with you, as well as understand what just happened. Because a lot of times people might think they're dreaming until they start to really pay attention and start to remember. Because sometimes with NDEs, they don't always come at you all at once. Sometimes you get bits and pieces over the years. So it's not even all at once all the time.
So that's interesting.
Be interesting.
Yeah. So you don't just come back with this slew of knowledge all the time. It sort of builds up, and you find that some people come back and say they have like all these abilities. Some people come back and say that they have amped up abilities.
That was for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But some of them I came back with, like, boom, it was there. And a couple of them, not until much later when I actually understood what it was.
Yeah, that's difficult. Many awakenings. Yeah, absolutely. Many awakenings.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
New awakenings. I like that.
It's almost like being pushed into like an evolution without your permission.
You nailed it on the head, Michelle. Oh my God. That's how I felt anyways. It was like, you're not listening and you're not doing what we're asking you to. So we're going to prove this to you and you need to come back and do it. But I think it depends on, I think a lot of people, from what my understanding, a lot of people that never had gifts do come back with something. Even if it's just a little bit, they do come back with something. I come back with anxiety. Oh, poor Wayne. That's common too. That's common as well.
Yeah, that's very hard, Okay, hold on here. I'm going to forward this back to her because I don't know if she's got it or not. I'm re-forwarding this link. We are waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
It's okay.
But yeah, I know that's makes it really tough. So you came back with anxiety also.
One time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's for me, I've discussed this with you. I've told you this before. I don't understand why they're so different. I never understood it. The only common thing I had was that light, that tunnel of light. And I think that was in my face because that was the only way I would know what was going on at the moment. But I did feel that warmth, and I came back with anxiety after the first one because all of a sudden everything that I could ever do was, heightened. Sound was heightened. It was crazy. And up until that point, I just thought I was losing my mind. But
and it's always different. Wayne had a really interesting story. This is probably the one time I would consider doing a call in because, maybe Wayne, just type it in quickly into the chat room. Not there yet. Okay. All right. Thank you. Just text our producer. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. He's fresh from the other side, Mike.
Yeah. Basically it was crazy. Like, we're talking, like the Grim Reaper on across the river Styx with the whole I'm like,
His was
who
so
has that?
doom and gloom. Well,
Seriously.
Wayne Mallows does, and I'm sure other
She
people
did.
may
It was
be
like,
as unique, as Wayne's experience. I think they're very few and far in between, but
yeah. You'll
wow,
type it
Wayne.
in just briefly so we can share it
Yes.
with you guys, because honestly, you get people who, like, when I had mine, I was young. For me, it was just a lot of darkness and I started seeing light, but it was also underwater. So I'm thinking, maybe I'm just underwater. I didn't really think
See?
about it. And then when I
No,
was
you
pulled
wouldn't.
up, it was just like, and it took me a while to realize that, like, oh, this is okay, I'm back. And I realized I knew I'd been someplace, but I
Yeah.
really was young and I didn't, like, it would be different as an adult. I think my recollection of details would have been so much different. I still find it fascinating how I've had, probably a handful of mediums over the years. I said, oh, you had an NDE when you were like 9. I'm like, well,
Both
it
you and
might have been 10 or 11, but I don't know. But it was within that
yeah.
that time frame. But it's like sometimes I had even forgotten about it because I was so young.
It's funny because both you and I went underwater at a very young age and stayed
It's-
there a little while.
yeah, see,
I'm just gonna put it that way.
yeah, it was kind of, yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It was my
Weird.
best friend's mom who pulled me up, and I'm just like, and she's like, there you go, you'll be all right. I
I
do
was
remember that. I'm like, okay,
well, it was
I'm all
different when
right.
it was different when we were little, right? It was
We
almost
were
like, oh, you're
hardy.
okay.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
not like today.
I was being watched by a lifeguard and she was just letting me go counting on the third arm up and I couldn't even get my arm up out of the water. I was at a lesson
Oh,
when this
wow.
happened. I think I was probably about 6 or 7 and all I know is I was told my brother who had taken me to the lesson because my brothers are much older than I that took me to that lesson, jumped,
Oh
climbed
my
the fence,
gosh.
came over, and it was his arm that pulled me out. And if the lifeguard wasn't a female, she probably would have got her butt kicked because he was just like, what were you waiting for her to die? Like that's all I remember hearing,
Right.
because I don't remember much of it at all. But yeah, that's crazy. I think water has I feel like that was an introduction as to what we were going to see and do in life. That
Mhm.
darkness going to light. I don't know.
Well,
That's
I think
pretty.
too with water, I mean, if you think about it, when you're pregnant, really you're in that, like, fluid, like water. Is it a form of rebirth even? Um, okay,
Yeah.
so Wayne is starting on his, and then Mike will get to you after.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell Wayne's, Amelia?
Yeah, absolutely. Just need my other pair of glasses
Yeah,
because
that's
God knows I'm blind. So Wayne Mallows is telling us his story. If you're listening and not watching us, he is in the chat room with us on YouTube. Wayne writes, so I slipped into unconsciousness at the hospital. I found myself on an old 3-mast sailing ship. It was dark and raining. I was with others, all wearing black raincoats like mariners. That's just damn creepy. Thank God Wayne's an author because it's just written so well. He really brings you into his experience.
Yeah, but I'm just messaging her
Yeah,
again.
if
This is
you're
this is
interested in
crazy.
Wayne's books, I'm just gonna throw in a plug right now, Vampire
Okay,
Tales,
you do
just letting
that.
you know. And it's hanging behind me on the wall. My big bro. The ship was steady, even though the water was rough. There was a lighthouse on the high cliffs, and the beam was going over the ship to the back of the ship where the steering wheel was located. Wow, it's so detailed. See, I'm fascinated by the details.
Oh yeah, he'll keep going also.
Yeah, it's intense.
Oh yeah, it is. It gets really it create Mike Walker. I had incredible visions soon after my UFO experience. Oh, I bet you did.
Yeah,
1985.
you
Yeah,
need to
they're
tune in
great
tomorrow
after that,
night,
aren't
Mike.
they?
You need to tune in tomorrow night, Mike.
Oh yeah, I just chalked them up as crazy dreams for years until I knew better. Yeah, right. No kidding. Have a few of those myself.
Oh
So,
my gosh. Not
oh yeah. Oh my
I only know
gosh.
because Michelle talks about them. I don't have them.
Well, okay, you could keep saying that.
Yeah.
We'll go
And
with that.
Wayne continues.
Yes. I know it's a long story, so
It's okay.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
okay. I should have waited so I could scroll up and read it all at once.
Yeah,
That's
that's
my
okay.
bad.
Yeah.
Wayne continues his experience. I followed the light and it stopped at the face of the pilot. The pilot was in a dark shroud. and his face was not visible to me. So this is where you get like the Grim
It's
Reaper
like that
kind of
hooded,
thing.
yeah, that hooded
Okay.
figure, just steering that thing around through the river. But the fact that it was and this happened to him in the hospital also, and he found himself on that 3-mast sailing ship, dark, raining, and with other people that are all like, I don't know. It was just weird. Like he'll keep on with it. It's
okay. Yes. And then we don't have our guest yet.
Yeah. Hello,
Okay.
Steph. Hello from London. Hello.
Hi,
Yeah.
London. I followed the light and it stopped at the face off. That's the one I just read.
That's the one that you just read. Yeah, he'll keep going.
Poor
I
Wayne.
know.
He's like, I have to type all of this out. Would have been easier if we just sent him a link.
Honestly, what we should do sometime is we should just have people write in their near-death experiences, and then we can just read them off.
That would be amazing, because I'm so interested to hear how other people fare in their experiences and how it stays with them. I find that very fascinating. And he continues, at that point, I felt a moment of panic. And in that moment, I heard a female voice in my right ear. She said, "Do you want to stay or go?" I thought of my children. And a moment later, I was back in
I'm guessing back in his body, back in the hospital room.
Yeah.
When he tells me that story in great detail, I'm just like,
we have to have him back just so he can tell that story.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Wow.
I know. Hospital room. First thing is, I have a pulse. Yeah.
So you were quite aware of what was going on. Like, you woke up and you were aware. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. I haven't personally ever heard anyone talk about it so darkly. I'm just saying.
That's kind of it makes you kind of wonder, because a lot of people go to the light and he's on this, and he laughs. Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Wayne.
Yeah, it is. I really wanted, people to hear that rendition, because it's a lot of people talk about the light and seeing loved ones, and
always,
and this happens, and he's just with all these other somber people. Like,
it's a horror film for him. It's not that message of light. It's like weird, but in that message, you did have someone ask you if you wanted to stay or go.
That is true. So
that's really weird.
That is true. So that's not this. Maybe it's not so dark and foreboding.
No, I see it as human error when they ask you, especially in a hospital. I see that as human error.
Right.
Like that someone messed up big time. So we're going to give you this choice.
Yeah.
Steph writes, I've had 2 near-death experiences. First one was totally out of body and dying. Second time, I was completely in it, even though I was drugged out. Yeah, it's just crazy. We love your life, Wayne. We're glad you chose to stay.
I know. That's insane.
I am.
Okay, here she goes. She's in the green room. Okay. So I will let the producer know that she's there. Joe, if you can hear.
Yay.
She's in the green room.
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
She might be snacking.
There she is. Oh, hello.
Hey. Hello, beautiful lady.
I was waiting in the green screen.
Oh. Yes. It's okay. That's exactly where you were supposed to be. Welcome back.
He was checking for you to come in. So here you are. We were just touching on near-death experiences, and people in the chat room were sharing up some of their stories.
Oh, good.
Mike says hi, Lynn.
Mike Walker says hi, Lynn. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi, Mike.
But how are you before we start? How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm great.
You look great.
Happy to hear that. I know it's so sunny where you are. It's just like dark in here. So
it's very sunny here. It's we're having a heat wave, how they do. So it's good. I was a little bit worried about my air conditioner. I've got it blowing. I hope it doesn't make a noise.
No,
you're great. You sound great and you look fabulous.
Okay.
What we thought we would do for those who didn't tune into the first show, is maybe recap a little bit what your specialty, of course, is near-death experiences.
Mhm.
So maybe just kind of bring people in a little bit, and we'll just talk about the NDEs just for a little bit,
Sure.
and then merge into, because we were just talking about how do you recover from something like that and be a functional member of society, because some never do, some
Yes.
have no recollection and do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the stage is
Yeah.
yours.
That is a good question, because a lot of people don't know what to do. First of all, it's such a different, like it's just a completely different world from here, and there feels way more real than this existence feels. And so coming back here, it sort of feels like this isn't real, and people don't. They feel like there's something wrong. They want to adjust it. So that's one of the big things that happens. And then, so there's the physical adjustment to try and understand that this is real. But the other adjustments are to be able to relate to other people, and they want to talk about it. Some do. Some want to just don't want to talk about it for a while and just digest and process what's happened. But some people want to talk about it insensibly. They don't ever want to stop talking, and that can cause some problems too.
Right.
And another thing that causes problems is that it was so wonderful there. I mean, it's just so beautiful there, and there's such peace and love, and it's everything we wish we had here. And so some people just do not want to come back at all. And when they do come back, they're very resentful. They don't feel very happy at all. I was doing a talk once, and after the talk, a lady came up to me and said, I'm just marking time. I don't care if I'm here or not. And I felt sad for her because she's here for a reason, And so I thought that was... Yeah, I mean, she's here to do something, and so I felt really quite sad for her.
Yeah, I could see that. Some people feel that way just with, past lives. They feel that there's something missing. I imagine it's the same way with a detail. Like my ND was not super detailed, as I was quite young, but some people have really detailed memories of that, and they feel like, no, I'm leaving people behind. Same with past lives. Something's missing. Something doesn't feel right. I don't belong here. I'm in the wrong time. So maybe at that point she's just coasting along. I know we had somebody in chat. Amelia, can you go through Wayne's? This is we were just talking about, a lot of people have loved ones,
absolutely.
they see light, and that's why they want to leave it. Wayne had one that, read it from the beginning, because it's only 4 little paragraphs.
Absolutely, and it'll be easier this time because it's all at once.
Because I'm really anxious for your take on this, because
I am as well. Because
like this.
He came back with anxiety. So I'll start. So Wayne writes, so I slipped into unconsciousness at the hospital. I found myself on an old 3-mast sailing ship. It was dark and raining. I was with others, all wearing black raincoats like mariners. The ship was steady, even though the water was rough. There was a lighthouse on the high cliffs, and the beam was going over the ship to the back of the ship, where the steering wheel was located. I followed the light, and it stopped at the face of the pilot. The pilot was in a dark shroud, and his face was not visible to me. At that point, I felt a moment of panic, and in that moment, I heard a female voice in my right ear. She said, "Do you want to stay or go?" I thought of my children, and a moment later, I was back in the hospital room. The first thing I heard was, "I have a pulse."
Like,
that's dark. I don't know if you've ever heard anything like that before, because it's a little strange for us. We don't hear that.
Yeah, and it is out of the norm. So that's true. It is very different. I think the only thing I can think of is that each one of us creates our own death experience. And I know that's very hard to understand. you know,
Mhm.
and if we could just understand that, we would understand this world too. It would help us a great deal in this world.
Mhm.
And the only thing I can think of is that Wayne took a participation in creating that for some reason. I don't know why. That would be, you know, like with him and his soul and his, you know, and his past experiences. And like there's a lot of things that would have to come into why he chose that experience. But that's what I would suggest is that for some of his personal reason, he chose that experience in whatever reason. I don't know.
Wow, Wayne. I'd
To
like
me-
to see your reaction.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear.
No, because you're not far off, because his father was in the British Navy. So I tend to wonder if there's that connection, you know, you know, your father, you grow up basically on the high seas sort of thing, you know, it's just sort of like really back in time. Could be a past life thing, could be like, we don't really know.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
that's
but-
true. It could be a past life thing too. So but
Yeah.
for some reason, and I do know why we create our own death experiences, each one of us. And I've said that's probably one of the very first things I ever say when I start to talk about NDEs is that we are the creators of it.
Wayne says, thank you for that explanation. It's a good answer.
Oh,
Wow,
there you
good. I'm glad because I was worried about saying what he didn't want to hear.
No,
No, we
it's
want the
definitely
truth.
different. Yeah, it's definitely different. So just to quickly recap, what brought you to the study of near-death experiences and maybe out-of-body experiences, just for those who didn't tune in before, so they have an understanding of who you are and why?
Yeah, sure. And I don't mind answering it all. It started back as a child, a very young child. I was about 8, 9, around there, and my grandfather died. And so that I didn't know my grandfather very well, so it wasn't like I mourned him, but it opened my eyes that death was something that everybody had. You know, everybody died, and I didn't want to die. And that scared me because I thought, someday in the future I'm going to die. And so I went to my mother to ask her for advice, and she said, "You just disappear when you die.
Oh,
you don't
nice.
you don't tell a kid
Thanks.
that."
Okay.
So
He is going to the void.
That's scary.
A 3-masted ship. So.
Well, my mom was an atheist, and so that's what she believed, that you just disappear. And just a small piece to add to that. Her sister, her best friend, was her sister, and her sister was also an atheist. And the second my mother died, she appeared to her sister, as if to say, "We were wrong."
Oh, that's
so
fantastic!
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm here.
We would totally had it wrong all this time. I think that's a great way to do it, though.
So anyway, so that scared me. That really did scare me. And for night after night after night, I would just be terrified of going to sleep and not waking up. And that went on for years and years and years. And so around my teens, my mid-teens, around 15, 16, I became very interested in different religions, because I thought to myself, maybe those guys have got answers that my mom didn't have, or that I don't have, and maybe I could learn something. So I started to study all the different religions of the world to try and see, and then that started off with finding out what happened at death. I never did find out, by the way. But then I got curious about, well, how did these religions begin, and how did they evolve to what they are? And that was my main focus after a while. And so I just read them all. I studied them all. And then when around the 70s, 1970s, that's when spirituality started to come into the picture in the Western world. And so I studied all that. I did as much as I possibly could because I just thought it was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't stopped. I really truthfully haven't stopped. I'm still learning.
That's good though, because like we're all students of life, right? I think it's all part of our evolution.
Yeah.
So what have you determined in all of your studies on, as your journey is continuing?
Yeah. So well, just let me finish the story.
Of course.
So then, that's
course,
okay. It's all right. When I retired, I decided that I was going to write a book, and the book was going to have a woman who OBE'd. And so, but she was going to have some really strange kind of experiences happen to her. And I wasn't sure if anybody really could do that or not, So I looked on the web. I'll talk to people who do that. And I wound up on NDERF, which is Near Death Experience Research Foundation. So I wound up there, and Jeffrey Long, the doctor that owns that, was looking for somebody to do research. And so that's how I got into the researching the 2,500 near-death experiences.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. But somebody tells me it's scratching the surface.
Yeah. Oh, I just love it. I'm still learning, as I said, I just don't stop.
Right. So in studying, let's say 2,500 cases, what commonality, aside from the fact that it's an NGE, is there something that triggers them? Is there, what is it about them?
What I have learned, what triggers them is death.
Yes. That's what I mean. Aside from the NDE. So, no, but are some people more prone to it? Is it,
not everybody remembers them.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think there are some people who have death experiences that don't remember them at all, and unfortunately, and we don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to us, the part of those of us who research those kind of things. We just don't understand why some people do and some people don't.
Sorry, some people remember their dreams and some people don't. I look at it almost like that kind of thing, that everybody's doing it, they just don't recall.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's nice.
Thank you.
Amelia's had like 4 of them, I think, haven't you?
Oh, have you?
Yeah, a little bit more than that. A little bit more than that.
6?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Amazing. She's a frequent flyer. Is there some people more prone to them than others?
It's almost like they know and it happens whenever I'm in a hospital or undergoing surgery. There's always an error in medication. I'm allergic to almost everything. And there is always human error in all of that's the one thing that's common with the experiences.
Yeah. So what did I learn, or what did I gain? That's the bottom line for me. And I think, for the people who read my books, first of all, when people, and Amelia, you might also be able to speak to this, but most people, when they leave their body, feel connected to the universe or to whatever they are looking at. Sometimes it's just what they're seeing and they feel one of it. And then sometimes it's the whole universe and they feel that they are connected to it. Would that fit for you?
It was very much, I've always had my gifts my entire life, but the last few NDEs put me on track for helping and assisting with missing children and cold cases. So that was the trigger that started it. And I always believe that there's a reason why they threw me into the ring a few times, to make sure I got the message.
Yeah. So anyway, so that is a very, very important point, that we are that we are all one. And I know that we hear it and we hear it and we hear it out there, but it doesn't seem to be sinking in. People think it means like, I'm sort of like you, or you and I are the same because we're human, or we're this, we're life forms, so therefore we're connected. The people who haven't experienced that complete oneness just don't understand that we are totally 100%. There's only one soul, one spirit, and we are it, and we are expressions of it.
Really?
Yes.
I don't think people would get that. That would be very difficult for a lot of people who have been raised to believe that we all have our own spirit energy. So when you pass, what is it? That little sliver of essence that joins back into the source?
Well, we become spirit, and it depends on the person's experience when they have a death experience. Some people have very deep experiences, and some people have lighter experiences that, like mine. When I said I got to the tunnel, I was sent back immediately. So I didn't really get to experience much. But people like that have deep experiences, some people don't go to a garden or don't go to beautiful buildings or locations. They go right into the light, inside the light. And when they enter into the light, then they realize that they are the light, that the light is them, that there's no separation, and that they are a part of this whole creating. Yeah. And it's very hard. And so, like I said before, with we create our death experiences, we also are creating our life experiences, each one of us. But we are expressions of source. Yeah. So oneness is very, very important, but it also is very confusing, and I understand that. And so it's some people get it and some people don't.
Yeah, I always say the law of one. That's
yeah.
We are one.
Yeah, and we will. I see the sun's coming on to me, and that's okay for you guys.
Yeah,
because you look fabulous, darling.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So, but I know that this is very hard, and because we're so wrapped up in being individuals. I mean, we really are. And so when we leave this body, we take a body with us, and we have physical experiences, and we see our loved ones, the ones who have passed before us, we see them in physical form because that's what we believe. We are so attached to this existence as physical that it's very hard for us to even take the extra step. And some people are prodded that way. Like, for example, their guides might say to them, look in a mirror or look in something that you can reflect, a reflection of some sort. And they look at themselves and they see themselves as sparks of light rather than as physical beings. And then that is a huge jump. And so then they realize that they are not physical, that they are more than that they're spiritual. And that's when, and often then they will see sparks of light coming and going from the big, huge light, and they recognize that that's where they belong.
It's funny because I remember, speaking with my uncle after he had passed away, and he never really feared death, but in the end, I believe he did because he had cancer and he lost his faculties pretty quickly. Yeah. And he was a medium himself. And I just said to him, I said, is it everything you thought it would be? And he said, and more. And I said, tell me what you see. And he said, lights, so many lights. I said, what is it? I knew what he would say because I knew with conversations we had, he goes, soul energy. And I just went, yeah. And he goes, it was just so many lights, you know, and I just sat there and I went, okay, I know, I understand. But it was nice that that he would put it that way, because this is all something he always wondered about too. We don't know till we get there.
Of course.
So it sort of validates your point. We all come back, into this collective.
Yeah, eventually. But some of us don't want to come back into the collective. We know that that's where we are, where we belong, but we just don't want to go there. We want more experiences. We enjoy the experience of being a life form. And so, yeah.
They're tough experiences, though.
For some people, yeah. For some people,
some
it's very tough.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's like Mike said. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to do that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Mike Walker wrote, Einstein even said, if we use just a percentage more, that we would be light, reincarnate with our soul family.
Yeah, I haven't read that, but that sounds about right. A lot of people, and the reason, and another thing is that when we pass on the other side, we can do things that we can't do here, like travel. In thought, just using thought, we can be anywhere. We can hear and experience and know our loved ones that are still past and still on earth living their lives, and we can connect with them. We can know what they feel. We can know, and another thing is that we can see 360 degrees, and knowledge. We can get complete knowledge of everything, and I mean literally everything. There is no questions left by the time, because there's nothing more to ask. They will ask a question, and it relates to this and it relates to that, and it just keeps coming.
It's just there. Is there anything negative in this light? Any anger? Any fear?
Sure. There are people who give themselves negative experiences, and sometimes those are people who feel they've been not as good as they wanted to be here on the earth, and so they'll put themselves into a negative situation and a health situation sometimes. And some of the health situations that I've read are just so horrible. I wouldn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So the fact that they feel that they actually did physically experience that is pretty serious. Yeah. But anyway, but the thing is that when they're there, I have not read one who hasn't asked to get out after a while. Like they're there for a while and then they say, get me out of here. And sometimes they'll say a prayer. Sometimes they'll call out to God or Jesus or Moses or whoever their deity happens to be. And sometimes one man couldn't think of anything because he was in this horrible place, but he couldn't think because he was a non-believer. But he remembered that he sang Jesus Loves Me when he was in Sunday school. And so he started singing that. Every single one of them that asked to be taken out of there were immediately removed from this horrible place. So now they're on the positive side and they're feeling all this love and everything. And they say, what was that all about? And every single time they're told that was your creation. You decided that for yourself. You created that. Every single one of them.
That's interesting, because do you think somebody would create that sort of a journey for themselves because maybe they feel that they did something that's sitting in their subconscious that would warrant, because let's face it, we are many people are products of their religious upbringings, and it's like, okay, well, you coveted thy neighbor's wife, you know where you're going, right? It's an old mindset, but it's some that sit behind. It's just behind in your mind. So does that mean that this is the way it is and you're going You're going to this place because you're not worthy. So what would constitute that kind of a, like, why would you produce something like that for yourself? It seems almost torture.
Yeah. It's because they may feel that that's where they belong.
Right.
They may feel there's a number of reasons. Number one would be that that's where they feel they belong, and gay people do that, and not so much now because it's opening up. But for a long time, gay people were evil and bad and needed to be changed. And so sometimes gay people put themselves into a hell situation because they think that that's where they belong. Some people are raised by very fundamentalist, spiritual kind of people, or religious people, and so they will go after them and say, well, you're going to go to hell, and if you hear it often enough, you're going to go to hell. The other thing that we found is that people who are in a negative state of mind at the time of death often wind up in a negative place. So they might be angry, or they might die in the middle of a fight, or some kind of negative situation, or fearful, maybe fear. So whatever, but a negative situation might put them in there, whether they believe they needed it or not.
Yeah, I guess it's just a product. We are a product of our upbringings, of our, spirituality, so
Absolutely.
to speak. And
Yeah.
I always say mindset is our biggest,
Yeah.
biggest problem, because if you can't work that
Absolutely.
out, many
Yeah.
people I work with, it's all about retraining what's up here.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
then they just
Right.
bounce right out of it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a pretty horrific thing. But I've heard that. I've often heard that. We were thinking of doing a show, just having people, writing in and giving us all of their experiences, because they're
Negative.
so diverse.
They are. Yeah.
Even when
You
you're the
have to
one.
read a lot. Sorry.
No, you go ahead, Lynn. No, I'll
I was
wait.
just going to say, you have to read a lot of them to get, so that you can start to see patterns.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
In these cases that you've studied and you've learned about, do you find that the ones that have had multiple, that they are common or not common experiences?
Okay. Both.
Okay.
Here's what
And
I
I
mean
feel
by
normal.
yeah. So what they aren't the usual. Most people don't have multiple experiences, not too often. But I have read quite a number of people who have. So while I wouldn't say it's common, it's not unique.
No, but their experiences, are they common with each other? Are their experiences all the same? Or is it
I see what you mean.
Yeah, sorry. I should have worded that differently. Sorry.
Okay. Well, people who I think as they grow older, their experiences change, and their knowledge changes, and their way of seeing things change. And so they have different experiences. They might have one or two that are similar, and then the next ones will be a little different. So yeah, there are differences within the experiences.
Makes sense.
Totally makes sense. It makes sense when you think, you think about it. We grow older, we have different experiences. And even if the death experience, which sometimes does happen, that they're right after each other, or, within space of time, short space of time, the fact that they've been there before automatically gives some understanding and knowledge that they didn't have the first time. So that makes the second one quite different again.
And I'm starting to wonder those last few that I had in the hospital, because I had come back to and then back flat again. I wonder if it was just one big one that was just continuing. But every time I went out, it was a different experience. That's what I mean. Like, I'm wondering if people feel that.
Yeah. I think it can be a different experience each time. Yes,
okay.
I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
so how does one, I guess, some people come back very gifted. Some people come back with anxiety. Some people come back with, how do you, I mean, a lot of people do want to just talk about it. Other people don't want to talk about it at all. I think it would give life lessons personally. You're never too old to reflect on life. So you're now working on different things. You're stepping outside of the NDE a little bit, and you're working with, positive thinking and self-love and all of this stuff. Why don't you lead us into some of that? And did you venture into this? Was there something that happened in your research with NDEs that made you kind of go, you know what? I think this is the next direction I have to go in.
Yeah, it just flowed. I didn't. It wasn't. It was just as I learned and grew, then I understood things differently, and so that's cool. Kind of like that,
that's a thing. Yeah.
And so that's how it was, and so I would just keep. And as I already mentioned, I have been involved or interested in. I don't want to say I'm a scientist because I'm not, but I have been interested in science for more than half of my life. So I 40 some odd years, I don't know how many. And so I'm quite interested, and that gives it another flavor too, because I can add this in and add that in and see things differently. And so, for example, and I won't go into it now because unless you ask me to, but it gets pretty complex. Consciousness, and I have found that the new quantum physics brings us to our conscious reality.
Absolutely.
And that's my next.
And do feel free to elaborate. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's in my next book, but
okay. We don't want you to give that away, then.
No,
it's okay. It's just very involved, like I said about the oneness thing, and people are going, "Huh? Okay, here it is in a nutshell," and I mean a nutshell.
All right.
Our consciousness somehow, in ways that we don't quite understand, affect the operation of or the particles and what particles do. And another thing, we say outer space, or not outer space, sorry, universe. We say the word universe and we think of all out there. The universe is right here, guys, right beside you, sitting on your lap.
Yeah, pretty much. Closer than we think.
So we have an effect on the particles within the universe. And that now, as I say, that would be a long explanation, but I'm not going to go into it because it's too much. That's one thing. Mm-hmm. So somehow, in ways that we don't quite understand, our consciousness is connected to the universe. And if you want to read, it's a good book on that. Get Biocentrism by Robert Lanza. Yeah, that's it, Lanza. Robert Lanza. He's a doctor and a researcher, and he has done some research on this, and so his book is fascinating, so I do recommend it. Okay, so, and that's what he talks about. He talks about how our consciousness somehow has an effect on particles and the universe. All right, so that's point one. The other point is that there are brain studies that have been done, and I know you've already heard about this, that the brain studies tell us that somehow there's a message that comes into our brain about 7 seconds before we even know what we're going to react to. And so how is this that we don't know what that's all about, but all of a sudden we get a message of some sort that tells us. And so I think that is our connection. I believe that's our source. That's our spirit, our soul, and that is connected to the source. And that's where the information's coming from ahead of time. That's like you're driving down the street and all of a sudden you put your brakes on, you don't know why, and something happens. and you say, whew. You know?
Right.
So
Right.
that, okay. And then the other experiment was an experiment done on the brain again. And this was to find out, and again, we go back to quantum physics. Quantum physics has a thing where two particles that are together, no matter how far, once they've been joined together, will never separate. And once they've done that, no matter how far apart they are, whether it's light years or whether it's, miles, when you tweak one, the other one instantly reacts. And that's faster than the speed of light. So how did that message get there? How did that other particle know? And so that is fascinating. Well, okay, so that we put that aside for now. Another fellow, trying to think of his name. Oh, sorry, it's in my book, but I can't remember.
Okay.
Anyway, he did a research with Dean Radin, which most people know. And he did a research where he developed a computer program that was so sensitive that it picked up the difference in the atmosphere, because we have like a white noise in the atmosphere. And so he picked up this program that he developed, picks up this difference in the atmosphere. And so then he wanted to find out whether our consciousness has an effect on the atmosphere of the world. And so he put these computers all over the world. They are all over the world. And he put this program in there. And then when major incidences happen, he would check the readout and find out that, yes, our consciousness has an effect on the white noise. So what does that say about what it's doing to us? Our and so it's things like that. And so here's the bottom line about the consciousness thing, is that I believe we have the soul, which is connected permanently to source, because we are source. So there's this connection. And then there's our consciousness, our physical consciousness, that's connected to the atmosphere. But we also know that our consciousness is somehow connected to the universe, and in ways that we don't understand. So that and then I see that the source is connected, it's a consciousness connected to everything. And
Wow.
so it's like a triangle.
It's so vast, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So how does that affect, like, you have these, like, let's say I'll use, for example, serial killer, that crazy mindset, the darkness. How does that affect the rest of the positive thinkers with the positive vibrations? And, does that cause a ripple effect? How does that?
Yeah. I think it must have an effect. It must have an effect. I mean, it cannot not have an effect.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense to me. So,
I'd just be curious to see what that effect is, like what it causes some of us to do.
I don't. Do you know, though, I was thrilled to find out that, how they have a world meditation every once in a while?
Yes.
Groups will have, well, they have a strong effect on the atmosphere too, in a positive way. So, yeah. Oh, and by the way, this is just an added thing. They also sometimes know when things are going to happen before they happen. 9/11 was around 8 something. I can't think of it in the morning that it first began. And the atmosphere was already reacting at 4:30 in the morning, before the plane didn't even leave the ground yet.
That's crazy. Like, I guess people tap into that, hence the premonitions, that people have. But see, that's a fascinating concept, because, if the atmosphere is already reacting, it's like for every action, there's a reaction, but the action hasn't happened yet. So it has to be the people behind it whose energy is projecting that out, right?
Yes, absolutely. So what I'd suggest you do is to go to what's it called? Global Consciousness Project. That's the name of the project that did this research. And it's all there. And it's still going. I thought it had stopped, but it's still going. I don't know if they're still putting more stuff online, but they might be. Yeah. But that's what I would suggest you do, is to go there and read.
Yeah, it's fascinating, because when you're dealing with things like that, vibrations and frequencies, I mean, the earth itself has its own vibration and frequency. You can work with all of that to, I mean, heal illnesses. Cancer's been healed by using frequency.
Exactly. And that's what Anita Morjani talks about, you know? Because she says we are so magnificent, we just don't realize it. And so that's what she, and so that's how she cured herself from cancer. Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's we are energy. We are made of water, both of which reacts to frequencies and vibrations. So if you're altering that within your space, you can experience some pretty mind-blowing things. But you have to be a little bit versed in it, because you can do harm to yourself at the same time, right?
Okay, so, and then I say that if we are all one, it makes perfect sense that we can hear each other's thoughts, or that we can read, be psychic. Psychic phenomena is a normal, ordinary thing. It isn't some kind of magic. It comes from the fact that we are all connected.
Well, it's like coming out with, some obscure word that you haven't heard in 20 years. So you just say the word and you're like, oh, I haven't thought of that word in like ages. And all of a sudden there's like 3 people in your circle, or maybe, on television, you hear like that word, like swell. I haven't heard swell since the 60s. All of a sudden you hear the word swell every day for a week. It's a perfect example. Like, it's just... Right?
Ruby.
Synchronicities.
In my book, my second edition of The Wonder of You, I talk about how we use consciousness in this world every day without even realizing it. And I'm talking about, like, for example, savants.
Yes.
I mean, that's consciousness. It has to be.
Yes.
And yet it's things that we just don't understand. What is that when you put Jesus, the holes in the hands?
Stigmata.
The stigmata.
Yeah. Stigmata is probably the best one, because for years, centuries, people have had, stigmata, the wounds of Jesus all on their bodies. And then some guy came along and said, it can't have been in this palm. There's not enough stuff in the hand to hold the body up. Once it starts to sag, it would just rip away. And so it must have gone in through the wrist. And there's enough there. Guess what? Now we're having stigmatas in the wrist.
It's like the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh, that's a big one this year.
It is. It's total Mandela effect. Some people call it the butterfly effect, but it is a Mandela effect.
Yeah.
It's like somebody changes the thought, the pattern, and next thing you know, it's becoming widespread.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And we are having this beautiful opening up of our world. I can just see it coming. I hope I last long enough to see more.
No, don't we all?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Amelia. You were saying something.
It's okay. I was gonna say the big stigmata cases, like Saint Padre Pio, Annalise Michael, those were in the wrists and top of the foot. Those were actually documented and photographed the proper way. But as you said, a lot of it's thought, and they were devout Catholics, so they would know that the crucifixion was in the wrist.
Yeah. So I just think that the fact that it's changed is phenomenal. There is another 2 points on consciousness or thought. You cannot be depressed if you go out and do something nice for strangers that you've never, and don't expect anything back. You go out and you do something really lovely for other people, it fills you up. And you can't be depressed. It's just not possible.
The whole pay it forward movement is something that I've been doing since I saw the film, and I love it. It really, I said, I feel selfish when I crochet like Santa hats for all the newborns at the hospitals and stuff, but I feel selfish because it makes me feel so good, and I just think all the love that I'm putting into this little hat is going to go on baby, and I honestly, it's really, for me, I say I'm selfish, but it's true. It really does make you feel so good when you're doing any charitable work.
Yeah. And even if you go outside and look around and try and find something to do for somebody that like you're not involved. Yeah, just even opening a door or picking up a package or letting somebody in behind you, in front of you, or, like there's 100 things you can do.
Writing a check is too easy. I agree with you. It's definitely about doing something for someone who can't pay you back, and anonymously most of the time is the best way.
That's right. That's exactly. Another thing is that gratitude. You cannot be depressed or sad if you think on gratitude. If you continue to realize I am so filled with how fortunate I am to have this life. And from other people's experience, I had a crappy life, really I did. But I am so grateful for every single day, because I would not be the person I am today without it.
I say the
all
same
the experiences.
thing.
I love the quote, "Stay in gratitude, happiness lives there."
Love
that one. It's my favorite. Be
true.
grateful for everything. Everybody has problems. Everybody has darkness. But if we focus on the good things in life,
you have to raise vibrations.
Seems just so different.
Yeah, you have to raise vibrations. If everybody did, then it would be contagious.
Oh, yes. And that's what I've got in my children's book. So there we go. I can talk about my children's
segue.
book.
Okay. Segue into the book.
Well,
Perfect.
My book is actually a spiritual book for children, but you won't recognize that because it's hidden in events and things that he's done. And I wanted to do that because I wanted it to be more open for everybody and not just for people who are into spirituality. And so the book is about a little boy. His name is Cam, and he's not so little. He's 13, and he's got an attitude, and he lives in the projects or the subsidized housing. And so he's a little bit not too happy. And there's a bully around the corner that's in the wealthy homes that is beating up on him and calling him names and so on and so forth. And so he's really down on himself, and he's down on the world, and he thinks everybody's against him. And he also, he's a little heavy. He's not fat, but he's stocky. And so he thinks that, and of course, that's one of the things that the kids pick on him about. So he's not very happy. And he starts to hang out with some guys that leading into some serious problems if he gets going, And then he has a school project that he has to do. And he finds, and I won't go into the details because I'll spoil it, but he finds himself in this new world. It's a new dimension, and it's called Warple. And that's the name of the book, Warple. And Warple is filled with cartoon, warm, fuzzy characters. And they teach Cam all kinds of different lessons. So they teach him lessons, for example, that all life is one, and we're all connected. They talk about kindness, and that kindness is contagious, and doing, and then and caring as well. And they also talk about anger and how anger comes back at you and will, harm you in the end. And it talks about love being more than just an emotion, that love is a power, a wonderful, and it's the most powerful thing in the universe.
Energy.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so that's my book.
No, that's
It
fantastic.
really is. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
out. It's out now. It came out
Okay.
Tuesday it came
Oh,
out.
congratulations. And how can we get that book?
It's on Amazon, and it's
Okay.
called Warple, WORPPLE. And please, they have got, it was out years and years and years ago, and I closed it. And so I see it's still up there. And I said, I contacted Amazon and asked them to take it down. So I hope it's down. But the one that is the present one has got an orange cover with all these little characters on it.
Orange cover. Okay, I'm going to get that for my nephew. Orange
Yeah,
cover.
and
I like
actually,
that.
adults love it. I have not
Yeah.
had a single adult that has read it that said, "Oh, that's such a wonderful book." So
I think
yeah.
it's a great book for a parent to read with a child together.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's it creates a great moment as well.
And I have it in the range of 9, 8, 9, kind of, depending on the reading ability, because it's about 168 pages or 170, something like that. So
Yeah.
it's not, and it's a chapter book. So I do have pictures of my characters in there, but the book itself is a chapter book. So it goes up to about 13-ish, 14, something like that.
Very nice. I'm going to do
Before-
a quick
Yeah, do that before we
station
continue.
ID because we're at that time. You are tuned in and listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and myself, Amelia Pisano. Our wonderful, beautiful guest tonight is Lynn K. Russell. We started talking about NDEs and now we're talking about spirituality. So if you're tuned in, please share this up with your friends and have them all come in. There's still more to come. If you are listening on FM, you are listening to 105.3 in New Orleans. We're on International Public Radio. I can never remember the other one, so please forgive me. This episode is fully sponsored by Folgers Coffee. Thank you, Folgers.
There we go. So getting back to your book, your character is a 13-year-old boy. I mean, they're pretty, a lot of times they're a little bit unruly or going through puberty. So, they're not really, their bodies are going through changes and so you have him completely coming out of that, easing out of that. I mean, I was very fortunate because, my kids were pretty open to that because that was me for the most part. But I'll tell you, there had a lot of friends who were that age who would not grasp something like that. To try to tell them if they're being bullied or they're coming from the wrong side of the tracks that, no, look, this is all good. We're all one. How do you reach the youth that way to say, you're in a dire situation, but no, we're all one. And they're looking at, let's say, the bully a lot of times who comes from the, well-to-do families and, whose parents may not be home or busy or they're just, that's what they are. How do you reach them?
Yeah. Oh, well, I think how I would reach them in real life, I just reach them with love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like in real life, that's
Right.
what I would do, is I would give them as much, and I would find their positives, whatever that their strength is. And I don't know what it would be, but that's what I would work through. I used to work as a family counselor, and I mentioned that before.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that is what I would do with my families is find their strengths and work with that and encourage it, because so that's what I would do with these children, is to work with.
So let's get into dealing with past pains.
With who?
Past pain.
Oh, past pains. Yeah.
Past
Well,
pain.
that's a theory, a new philosophy kind of theory I've come up with.
Okay.
That hit me like it's one of those big aha things,
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And so I was thinking that when we have something that is really, bugging us, we live it over and over and over and over. And we just keep going back and back and back to that same issue over again. And so I thought that it seems to me that what we're trying to do is we want to rewrite reality. And I'm talking about myself in my own experience. And when I would go back and I would relive these things, I wanted them to be different. I didn't want that to be like it had been, you know. And I would try in my daydream, I guess, or whatever, I would try to see if I could see it differently, but it was always the same because it's reality. And I realized, Lynn, you're trying to do something that's impossible. You're trying to
go
make
back.
And trying to make it different than it really was.
Right.
And that we can't do that. We cannot do that. And we need to recognize that that is what we're trying to do, because that is what we're trying to do. And then we have more power. And we are the ones that have the control then. And we can then accept the reality of what is and use it for our growth rather than using it for that I'm no good, or look at what happened to me, or, you know, those guys are no good.
So
or any
take
of
the
those.
chip off your shoulder, basically.
Yeah, it does.
Right.
Yeah. So that is, I think, a very important point, is that we need, and I see it in real life right now with COVID. The people who are deniers and don't want to look at it and know it's not real, and I don't want to see this. I don't want to face this. This is too hard for me. That's what's happening. And so they're putting their life in jeopardy.
Right. So basically learning to deal with past pains. You can't go back. You can't change it. So the recommendation is don't try to change it. Try to deal with it. It's not a crutch. It's just accept it. It's gone.
You can't deal with it. It's because it's a pain that is real, and it's not going to go away. So it's not a dealing with. It's more like accepting. Okay, that's the reality.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right. Okay, well, that's interesting. So find self-love. Love yourself for who you are, what you contribute, for what maybe your offspring, what you've created. You know, that's a contribution to the source.
Yeah, exactly.
Break the chains. The chains of past abuse and stuff like that is very important as well. That's how you change everything.
Yeah. And there is one thing that I wanted to tell you, and then I think that's it. I'm finished.
You've got time. You've got time. Go ahead.
You got lots of time.
I want to tell you this because it's the lesson in this experience was so big, like really major. I was I was abused, and I was, I didn't have a good home, and so anyway, I would go out of my way over and over and over and over to try and prove that I was worthy, that I was good, that I could, you can love me. It's okay. Look at me. And I never got what I was looking for. I always felt like they just don't care, And I felt very neglected and very sad about all of this. And so one day, after I had been working for my parents, and I'd done some work, and it was a large amount of work, and I was exhausted, and I came home, and it was the time for the kids to go to school. So, excuse me, just a sec.
Of course.
So I got the children their school supplies and clothes and so on. And then I found a corner on my couch, and I sat there for 2 weeks. I got up enough time to look after the kids, make their meals, and so on and so forth, and went back to my corner. And I stayed in that corner for 2 weeks. During that 2 weeks, I was saying to myself, but I'm no good. They're never going to love me. What's the matter with me? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then a little voice in my head said, but do you deserve it? Do you deserve the love that you think you need? And that was like a bombshell, because all of a sudden I stripped away all the gosh, gee, I can't say nice things about myself. And I saw the real me. I saw that I was caring, I was loving, I loved my children, I was a good person. I wasn't a liar or a cheat or did anything like those kind of things. I was a good person, and I worked hard, and I did. And then when I really looked, without all the fluff on the top, I said, yes, I do deserve it. And I gave it to myself. I gave me my approval and changed me like that.
Yeah.
I was different. From that moment on, I was a whole different person.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, Mike said higher self. Absolutely. Self-love is everything, because if you don't love yourself, you never feel worthy of anyone else's love. And it doesn't matter how much someone tells you they love you and you're important to them. If you don't feel that.
Yeah. And I found that with my work over and over, how much people don't like themselves, how much they just beat up on themselves so much. And
it's hard to walk away from that abuse, I think, if you have an abusive childhood, because you spend your whole life trying to please, because you're trying to please as a child, and it's not helping. I mean, I've known numerous people. I've known numerous people like that. It's really hard to tear away from something. I'm fortunate I didn't have that, but I went to school with a lot of people who did, and I've grown up knowing, even as an adult, a lot of people who did, and it's really difficult to bounce back to that. I was married to somebody who was like that, and it became a crutch. I'm like, somewhere along the line, you have to let go of the crutch, and you have to, walk on your own 2 feet, let it go.
Especially if you're affecting other people. I'm proud that I broke that chain of verbal abuse, but my mom was physically abused, and I understand now why she chose words, because she thought she wouldn't hurt me physically. But what she didn't realize was the damage that was done emotionally, where I'm very careful with my daughter. I have one child, and I don't speak down to her. She's my world, and I've never touched her. Never.
No.
And I believe that when she has her family, she'll continue in a loving way as well, because that's what she understands.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. It's very hard, though, because even though it was a difficult childhood for me, and I do love my mother, I don't not love her. I understand why she did what she did, and I forgave her a long time ago. She passed away when I was 27, so I really had to forgive her, or I couldn't continue. But it's still hard to have confidence in what I do, and it's still I can still hear that you're not good enough in the back of my head. So that one's really tough to let go. I agree with Michelle on that. That's really hard. You do become a pleaser, a people pleaser, because you're looking for that accreditation telling you that, that's great. Exactly. Michelle hit it right on that. Yeah. It's very difficult.
I guess I tell that story hoping that so others can see that would be, that they could do the same thing. I don't mean exactly in the same way, but they can look at themselves and see beyond the BS that we give ourselves and look beyond it, and don't allow it to be there. Just step over it.
Yeah. Know your worth. Know your worth.
Yeah.
Everybody has that. Your self-worth.
I found the difference in parenting. A parent who will love themselves and know themselves well can be a good, solid, consistent parent.
Well, it doesn't come with the rule book by any means.
Yeah, that's right.
But do the best that you can. And unfortunately, you don't realize till they're adults. So it's like, well, you don't need a rule book. What?
You know what?
Somebody didn't tell me that.
I wish that like the 1970s was when spanking became out. Nobody.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that it became bad, and you had to find other ways to discipline. And I'm 100% in agreement.
Yeah, I was never spanked.
I was very, very frequently. So that wasn't an issue. But the point is that since then we have this new generation. So we had the people who thought that the world belonged to them and owed them. But now we have this next generation that's coming along that's saying we need to change the world. And I think this is the generation that is coming after the ones that were, given into.
I hope so, because there's a big group of self-entitled people out there right now. So
self-entitlement is a big problem. But I do think that, it is. But I do think that it's also bringing the generation that is caring for the world and caring for each other and giving,
I hope so. I think we need to bring back respect for authority, for one thing. Our police officers are suffering, and I'm going to start with them because I work with them. But also teachers, I find that teachers cannot speak up. There is a lack of respect for authority because
that's true.
People are raising their children to believe that they are in the right all the time. And you can't be like that.
But I do believe that respect should be earned. Because I have seen teachers abuse students. I have seen that.
I know.
And it's you earn that respect. You don't just get it because you're a teacher, or you don't just get it because you're an officer. Let's say if you're bullying because of your authority,
but
like there's a fine
few
line
and far
with
in between, though.
Sure.
Those are inflamed and amplified by the media. For me, when I was little, it was terrible because we feared teachers. You should be able to go to them, and I think you need to teach that, and that teaching your child to understand what is abuse and what isn't abuse from any adult is important.
That's right.
It's why children are sexually abused and why they become victims and why they stay victims is a great understanding. You have to build your child with confidence, but teachers also deserve respect. I have a cousin who is afraid to walk to her car at night, in a high school in a really good neighborhood here in Ontario.
No, that's true.
I see the other side of it. That's why I get a little bit I'm like, this is ridiculous. They're being told to F off. They're being told where to go, threatened. They can't speak, and it's terrible. And it's not always inner city. So we need to know that it's not always that way. In fact, I find kids in inner city schools are actually well-behaved and have a great deal more respect because they actually appreciate that person being there for them. And I do believe that respect is earned, but I believe it needs to be taught everywhere, whether it's your church, your school, your community. I have a lot of people in the education system that I'm related to, and we're in a society where the children are ruling over the teachers, and it's a bit too much because at home they're not getting discipline, and then they all get awards at these sports events, and I don't agree with that either. I'm going to hear a lot of people send your emails to Joe Montaldo just saying, it should be earned, just like your merits should be earned as well. Your credits should be earned. It's got to be a balance.
I agree.
With everybody.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
I do. I think that we, like, for example, the commercials drive me nuts because something will get spilled and mother jumps up and does it. And I think a child should be taught at 3 years old to wipe up, So, I mean, it starts, what I'm saying is to be responsible. It starts at 2-3 years old. So, and that's what you're talking
little
about.
Things, small. Now, Lynn's not saying we want them to shovel the snow or cut the grass. We're just little things, understanding that
pick up their toys or Yeah, decide what they
Yeah.
want to eat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, while we're on the topic of just, children, and I'm just going to jump back to NDEs for a moment. Have you had cases of children who have had NDEs, and how do you work with them, because they are so little,
Yeah.
or
Do you know?
younger, like the mind isn't quite, it's not developed, they're still
Yeah.
changing.
Well, actually, their NDEs aren't that much bit different than the adults. They have almost the same thing.
Yeah, but how do they deal with it, or
But
how
when
do
they
you help
come
them?
back, when they come
Yeah,
back, it depends on their parents.
right.
Some parents won't let them talk about it. They say that, oh, that's,
Mm,
don't tell anybody because they'll think you're crazy. That kind
right.
of
Yeah.
thinking.
Been there.
And so, yeah. And or they fluff it off. No, that was just a dream, and,
Mhm.
those kind of things. So
Right.
it really depends on the parent. If they allow the child to talk about it openly and
Mhm.
and ask questions and find out information, then the child will be better adjusted to dealing with it.
Right.
And you might want to think about having, if you want to talk about children, is PMH Atwater. Do you know her?
No.
No, no.
Oh, she's famous for her work with children and NDEs.
Oh,
That's her specialty, and
okay.
she's done. If I look like Mickey Mouse beside her. She's probably done 5,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
She so PMH Chatwater, and you can get in touch with her easy. She's easy to get a hold of because she's
Mhm.
very open and very public, and will appear and no problems, and yeah. So she's a good question.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank
It's
you.
interesting because your children are still developing, so it's really difficult. But no, you're right. We
Yeah.
are we are their biggest hindrance, I find, our own mindsets and belief systems, and we hinder.
Yeah, because we have our thoughts and our beliefs, and we have a hard time just sitting down and saying, okay, that's true. Yeah,
Mhm.
we need to.
The more parents, I think we live in a day and age now where more parents do come through. Like you're reading more stories on children who, let's say, reincarnate and they talk about their past lives. There's
Mhm.
more and more of that coming public. I think
Yeah.
parents are a little bit more encouraging. We live in a different time.
Well, I think actually I don't. I think that it's always been, but we haven't talked about it because in the Western world,
Yes.
because Christianity does not believe in, or didn't, I don't know, maybe non-fundamentalist Christians might, but
Hmm.
fundamentalist Christians didn't. That was not.
No.
So there was this line, but today we're much more open with the new spirituality that started in the 70s,
Hmm.
and so we're much more open to those kind of thinking, and there are some really good research studies done on reincarnation
Hmm.
that and I'm Erlander, I can't think of his last name. Anyway, if you look up the book, um, I saw the light and came here. The author of that book would be a good person to talk to because
Hmm.
he's done a huge research. I mean, there's others that have done huge research
Hmm.
too, but yeah,
Hmm. No, it's definitely fascinating because
yeah,
people don't look at children as credible. They look
yeah,
at children as
Yeah.
yeah,
teller of tall tales, and not that they're
Yeah.
not out there telling and weaving their tall
Very real.
tales, but they're also just very pure. They'll just say it like it is. They have no reason to think
yeah.
that there's anything wrong with talking about it.
And children start talking about it because when they're born they remembered the past life, and so they start talking about it around 2 when they get some control over language, so
Hmm.
then they start talking about it. But as years go on they start forgetting, and they at first they're
Mm.
bonded to that past family and they want to go back there, and they will demand, some children will demand, go back to their real family. Well,
Wow.
as time,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
and then as time goes on, they start bonding more with the people that are their family in this life, and so then they forget. And by 6, 7, it's starting to fade, and by 7, it's pretty much gone. So there's a 5-year period there.
That's sad, because if you go by the mentality that we have a soul circle,
Mm.
and we just follow each other through
Yeah.
life after life, role playing,
Yeah.
realistically, you're with those people. I mean,
Well,
depending on when you pass and come back, of course.
yes, that's true. But the reason why we don't remember our past lives is because it would make living this life too difficult. It would make things so
I
difficult to
agree.
be able to, yeah. And it's the same reason why we don't remember what our lives were like before we were born. Because if we remembered, just like people who've had death experiences, then they have to readjust and they have to keep, in their mind saying, oh, this is okay,
It is hard. I mean, think about all the loves that you will have missed,
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
deaths, all
yeah.
the
Well,
passings, the
ask Amanda.
grieving,
You
the
would know.
children, and oh yeah, it would
Oh, it's
be.
Amelia. Sorry. No.
Oh, it's okay.
What was I? What is your name, please?
Amelia. It's
Oh,
so
all right.
tiny. It's so tiny. Don't
I
worry
was
about
I
it.
was reading and Amanda. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I didn't even catch on because I'm so amazed by everything that you were talking about tonight. It was just eye opener for me on a lot of things. I didn't realize we create.
Not like you're
our
calling or
death
anything bad.
No.
You know.
I didn't even hear. I just heard and I knew you were talking to me. So
Yeah.
it's okay.
Zach's got a comment.
Yeah, Zach says
pretty lengthy
that
one.
that is one of the reasons why I left my last teaching job years ago. Couldn't speak up to my admin when focusing solely on standardized tests, which was hindering my ability to teach. I totally agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand it. I really do. I have so many family members in the educational system. It's crazy. It's just amazing how many of them are teachers right now. But
My daughter's a teacher, but I just want to say that one of the things that I found when I was doing family counseling was how fearful the parents were to punish, because all of a sudden they were told they couldn't punish anymore, and they're saying, "Well, what do I do? How do I make this child behave him or herself?" And so they would try sending them to the room, but if the kid made too much noise, then they would think, well, maybe that's not what I'm supposed to do. Or is it really going to work? And those kind of things. So, and I would tell parents to be firm with their children, to send them to the room or make them clean up their messes behind them or take responsibility for their actions or whatever that might be. And they would say, oh, but what if they get mad at me and they don't love me anymore? That's really what people, they would say that. They also said, yeah, but isn't that cruel? We're supposed to, they didn't know how to parent because they couldn't parent the way they were parented. And
that's understandable.
So it threw people completely off until they learned other ways. And so that's why they got the helicopter parent happening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I say I'm a helicopter parent in the sense that I'm so overprotective of my daughter, but we've come to two extremes. We've had where we were spanked and hit and whipped in school to where it's complete polar opposite. Everything is balanced. We really need to find the balance. It's very important in order to, function properly as a society as well. It's really hard to send your kid to their room. My daughter didn't have a TV in her room. We had a normal bedroom for her. But when you send your kid to the room and they've got their computers, their iPads, their ear things, and their televisions, I don't know how you're disciplining any of them that way.
Yeah.
But
You take away the game consoles. You just unplug.
You have to, but most
satellite
parents won't go that extra step like you do, or or you
Yeah.
did, because your kids are grown, or mine's grown. I mean, to this
Mm.
day, I'll say to her, "I'll take your car keys away." I'm like, "What am I thinking? She's 23. Like, I can't take her keys." But I only have one, so I don't have the experience of raising more than one child at the same time, because I know that's much more difficult than raising one. It's a little different, and I didn't raise the typical only child, where people often say to me, she's not spoiled in the sense that she behaves poorly. And I said, no, I'm really fortunate that way. I got one. God gave me one, but I got perfection. That's all I'm going to say. But so important. I think teaching them respect is really big for themselves and for others is really big. And like Michelle said, they need to learn that it's got to be earned from certain people as well. I agree with that.
Yeah.
We are slowly nearing the end of the show. This is the part where you promote yourself and you promote your books or what you have coming up. And
I think I already did that.
I know, that's okay.
It's okay.
Just
Recap.
do it again. Yeah.
Recap. Yeah.
That's all right.
Well, okay. I have 2 books out right now. One is the second edition of The Wonder of You, What the Near-Death Experience Tells You About Yourself. And it's on Amazon and other places, but go to Amazon. And it is, what was it? Oh, and you can also find me, by the way, on my website. It's just lynnKrussell.com. I'm super easy to find. Yeah. And so the book it starts off with talking about what near-death experiences, and it also talks about what happens at death, but then it goes into that science stuff that I didn't talk about, or that I didn't explain. I talked about but didn't explain. So there's a little more of an explanation in the second edition now. And so the other book I have out is my children's book, What Warpole, and it's just out now. So I am really hopeful that you just fall in love with it.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
It's a warm fuzzy. It's a warm fuzzy. And this boy that learns these lessons, his name is Cam. He learns it through adventure and through silly stuff and silly incident. So.
That's awesome. Nice. Great. Sounds like it's a great book for parents, like Amelia was saying. Read it to your kids and get them started nice and early, so we don't have a bunch of little heathens running around. Just kidding.
So this way they can understand if you're discussing with them and you're reading it with them. That's what I used to do with my daughter. Would read books with her even when she was older, just because they can comprehend it more and they can ask you questions. Sure. I like that.
And this book can be read easily by parents. You might have questions but I don't think so. I think the child is, it's a very basic story. It would be easy to understand,
Mm-hmm. Well, there you have it, folks.
Write
that down. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. It's always such a pleasure. You're so delightful.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And you're lots of fun.
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed being here and being a part of it.
Thank you.
Just enjoyed you very much. Thank you.
Let us know when the next book is out. Maybe we can do it again.
Okay.
Okay, Lynn.
Bye-bye.
You are so lovely. Bye-bye. Thank you, Lynn. Take care. What a doll.
She is. Well, we've come to the end of another awesome segment here on the Outer Realm. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, especially to our guest, Lynn K. Russell, our producer, Joe Montaldo, and of course, Folgers Coffee, who fully sponsor our segment on both Wednesday and Thursday nights. So thank you. Remember to stop by the International Public Radio and UFO Paranormal. Don't forget, that's the big one. And subscribe. I don't remember the other ones. UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. There, I said it. Okay. Take a breath. Anyway, subscribe. While you're there, head on over to Outer Realm on Facebook and Instagram. Show us some love. If you need to contact us, the Outer Realm contact at gmail.com, the Outer Realm contact at gmail.com. And while you're doing all of that, you can show us even more love by heading over to www.podcastawards.com. Find us on the Outer Realm under Social and Culture category and People's Choice Awards, 2 different categories. Kindly cast your vote, hopefully for us. That would be nice. But while you're there, please don't forget our peers, Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast, Education, Storytelling, and Drama category, Centralist, which is the news category, Science and Beyond, which is the science category, and Chasing Prophecy on religion. Tomorrow night, join us again as Joe Montaldo, the one and only, our friend and producer, will be back onto the show. It's always an amazing show when he joins us. And we talk aliens, of course. So you're not going to want to miss it, people. Have a good night, and we shall see you tomorrow evening. Thank you. Good night.
All right, everybody. It's time for you to get out and nominate for your favorite podcast. There are 4 amazing shows I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards, the longest-running premier awards event in the podcasting space, open to shows worldwide. You can vote at podcastawards.com and nominate the following shows. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in the categories of education and storyteller drama. This show is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard, and provides writing tips and art advice from contest judges, winners, and industry professionals for writers and artists wanting to take their next step, along with the needed inspiration to keep on going. Next one, The Centralist, in the category of politics and news. The Centralist is a much different news and political program. It is not opinion news, it's just the facts so you, the people, can make up your own minds on the different stories reported on. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings to you just the facts from trusted sources. Science and Beyond, in the category of science and medicine. Science and Beyond is a true science-based program that explores every aspect of science, from how things work to why we need science, and where science can't explain something, we go beyond to see if we can figure it out on our own how something works. The Outer Realm, in the category of society culture. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, with guests who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, cryptozoology, and anything else that would be deemed otherworldly. Nothing is off limits in the Outer Realm. Michelle is an international public figure and has spent the last 18 years working in the paranormal. Her co-host Amelia is a remote viewing medium with 9 years experience working in missing children and cold and active murder cases. So go to podcastawards.com to vote for these 4 shows and any others you enjoy listening to. That's podcastawards.com.